Why do people in America have anger or hatred toward the Jewish people? I understand differences of opinion about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Israeli-Hamas war. I understand a feeling of concern about the fact that innocent people might be getting killed as a result of this. I'm of the position that a pro-ceasefire position is a pro-Palestinian position. It is a pro-Hamas position. But I can have a debate about that. What I don't understand is what can best be described as Jew hate. I just don't get it. Like, I can understand, I guess the easiest way to put this, when I grew up, I knew when I reached my teenage years, my grandfather was the finest man I ever knew. The finest man I ever will know. And my grandfather softened quite a bit over the years of his life in his 60s, 70s, and 80s. But when I was a kid, my grandfather was racist. He would use the N-word. He would always claim to you that he didn't mean it that way. I mean, not always, but occasionally he would, I know, he would claim that it didn't mean, it wasn't race specific when he said it. And I remember a moment that, looking back on it now, when it happened, I didn't look at it as what I think it turned out to be. But I remember I was 14 years old and I asked my grandfather to stop it. And looking back on it now, I'm proud of it. I did it because I was uncomfortable. And he, kind of sloughed it off and said he didn't mean anything by it. And he knows plenty of, there's plenty of different types of people that that it didn't mean anything about the color of their skin. And by the way, my grandfather was great friends with black people. One of his best friends, a guy by the name of Robert Kitchens, was a black guy. So it always baffled me. Looking back on it now as an adult, my grandfather grew up, and by the way, my grandfather's Cherokee Indian, so he had no reason to be racist except that he grew up in it. And it was what he knew. So I imagine that this has to have some genesis from upbringing, when 20-something-year-old people are going online and feel compelled to spew Jew hate. The only way I can say it.
I had an experience when I was really young, like 5 years old. I was with my grandmother, and she was in the car with her brother, and somebody cut him off in traffic, and he just started with the racial expletives just pouring out of his mouth. And she got really offended and screamed at him to pull the car over, yanked me out of the car, and is preparing to walk to a payphone, and starts just chastising him for using that language in front of her and me. And it wasn't until later that I thought about this. It was so odd to me that one person from that same household was completely fine with that mindset, and the other person was completely revolted by it. And they're from the same household.
Well, I get it. I mean, I understand it. And it was odd. I don't remember the exact language that I used but I remember that I was 14. And I asked my pa to stop it. And he kind of sloughed it off, like whatever. But then I realized now, you know what he did? He stopped it. I mean, not altogether, but there was some of it. I mean, but not a lot of it in the later years in his life. And I think I would like to believe in the later years of his life, he recognized that that's just stereotyping the quote unquote other. And that is particularly a way. My grandfather grew up dirt poor in Dunbarton, South Carolina, where they got relocated because of the Savannah River plant. And 90% of the people that got relocated were black. 10% were, quote, white. My grandfather was considered Caucasian, even though he was Cherokee Indian. So point being is that he grew up and he was surrounded by black people and lived and worked amongst them, yet he carried that racism with him. Once again, I have an understanding of that. I don't have an understanding of why a 21-year-old would spew the type of anger and hatred and anti-Semitism that we saw at Cornell University, except that they think they can get away with it, or it makes them feel somehow good or superior in some fashion.
Some kind of social clout with it?
I guess. I don't get it. Now, many of you are suggesting that it is because Jews are, quote-unquote, anti-Christ, or they don't believe in Jesus Christ. I don't think that's what it is at all. Most of these kids on college campuses wouldn't know religion if it hit them in the head like a frying pan. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. What say you? Larry's in Clarksville calling us. Hey, Larry, thanks for the call. Thanks for the hold. How are you, sir?
Hey, Matt. I'm hanging in there, but I'm trying to duct tape my head, keep it from exploding. You know, my dad's best friend while he worked at Nabisco was black. He was one of the finest men I ever knew. But Dad would always use the N-word. Well, I remember when I was 6.5 years old, and I'm just a little bit older than you. Well, a little bit, you know. There was a family that had a car wreck in front of our house, and the gentleman walked up, and my German Shepherd and I were sitting on my back porch, and he said, "Well, will your dog bite?" And I said, "Well, no, but he might bite an N-word." We did not have air conditioning. Mom was in the kitchen doing the dishes. I cannot tell you how fast that she brought my rear end into the house and whipped me with a switch. But my question to you is, Matt, well, one more quick comment. The younger kids, yeah, they're going to have this. That's because they've been taught this all through public education. But my question to you is, Matt, one of my best friends who used to be extremely liberal, and we used to have discussions, and then he became a conservative, and now he is anti-Semitism. And I don't know how, you know, I don't understand that. How do I, you know, tell him, dude, you're just being a fool?
You know, I don't, you know, I like to joke, and it's a great call, Larry, and thank you for making it. You always make great calls. I like to joke that I don't belong to any club that would have me as a member. It's an old Groucho Marx joke, but it's true. I mean, I don't belong to club anything. I am fiercely independent. Fiercely independent. I don't know what it is about me mentally that pushes me in that direction, but it does. So groupthink mentality is foreign to me. Now, you know, the Georgia Bulldog, that's a different subject. Somebody just brought, that's different. That's different. Thank you. Georgia, glory, glory to Georgia. Did you see they disrespected us? Disrespect! The College Football Playoff Committee put us at number 2. Number 2. We'll show you number 2. We're going to use that as delicious hate fuel against the Missouri Tigers over the weekend.
As little as I know about football, I will never understand that college ranking system.
Well, it's better than it used to be. I mean, it used to be a bunch of computers. Now it's a bunch of knuckleheads sitting in a room figuring it out for themselves. But whatever. I digress. Some are saying that it is spiritual in nature. I get that. But then I get this. And look, I'm not knocking this super text. I asked for this. But this is what I get. And maybe this is the answer. Jews want to kill and have historically killed Christians. They had Christ killed and went from there. Jews control many evil narratives in the world. They own many of the banks. They were the first bankers. This equals control. People don't realize that Jews at this point are no better than Islamists. I responded to 5201 by saying, how are Jews hurting you? Serious question. When was the last time Jews killed Christians in mass? 5201 responded, they aren't hurting me and I don't hate them. I want to see them saved, which is what Romans 11 says will happen. But for now, they hate Christians. I don't think Jews don't hate Christians, do they? But for now, they hate Christians, he writes, or she writes. I just happen to know how they operate, and I'm not going to whitewash it because anti-Semitism is a golden calf of the world. So, how they operate. This is what I don't get. And I'm not trying to slam on you, 5201. I asked the question, and you're answering the question. You're offering your opinion, and that's all well and good. But what do they get? The Jew newsletter that tells them how to act around other people and how to operate, that they're all in it together? I don't think they're all in it together, man.